Everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my series premiere review for Black Lightning. Of course, Black Lightning is the new DC TV show on the CW. They've got pretty much all of them outside of Gotham at this point. But the interesting thing is that Black Lightning was actually meant to be on Fox, apparently. That's what somebody told me. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Although they were using sets, in the trailer, there's a set that's actually from The Flash. So I don't know exactly how true that is or when that happened in production. But it was interesting. I really enjoyed this episode. It was really fun watching it as a show in general, but it definitely made me laugh. Like, being a black guy, there was some stuff that I was thinking that's just in the episode that they did or stuff that they said, and it just made me laugh. I was cracking up watching this. Just during some of the certain segments, some of the jokes the sisters were making about each other, and the one girl, the younger sister calling her older sister like Harriet Tubman and stuff like that. They had Roland Martin on here, which really shocked me. But it was so funny going through and watching this first episode where it's like, all right, so this is, you know it from the trailer. It's Black Lightning as an older guy. Like, he's already had his kids. He's older. He's retired from being a superhero. And it's like, all right, well, obviously this gang, the 100 gang, they come in, and that's kind of why he gets back into it. But I was curious how they were going to play that route, because it's like, this is a guy who retired from being a superhero, but it's not like he's that much older. He's a bit older, probably like 10 years or so, a little bit more. And it's like, okay, yeah, he's a bit older. They do have the scene where they have like the older guy where he's like, I watch this tape every year on my birthday. That was pretty awesome, because they showed like it was him and he was like completely bald and he had the old costume. I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool way to do that. So that's like what Black Lightning looks like in the comic books. So if you ever were curious for some random reason, that's what he looked like. So they had that reference in the first episode. I was like, well, that's super sweet. Like, they had him completely bald and they had like the old school outfit that was a little bit brighter, and like, the it was like full on blue and yellow, is where the modern day version is almost like a tech sort of suit with like lightning bolts in it that actually channel his power, which I thought was really sweet. I legitimately thought they were just two cool looking lightning bolts. Like, yeah, it's, lightning bolt for his costume, sure. But then when the guy shot him at the end and the bullet got stopped, it was because it was like channeling his lightning powers, and it like took all the energy out of the bullet like a force field. I was like, well, that was actually sweet. I thought those were just like cool little aesthetic lights as lightning bolts because he had lightning powers. It actually worked. It made sense. So I was like, all right, well, that was much smarter than I was thinking. Like, that just looks cool. But I really enjoyed this episode. I love the way they did it, as you have this guy who's a hero in his own right outside of being Black Lightning. I thought that was actually pretty sweet. And it's like, the whole thing is that he's been the principal for 7 years, and he's kind of the guy, even I guess he's not the main villain, because the main villain is Tobias, but the secondary villain is either, I thought they were saying Allah, but it was like Lala or something weird. It was either way. I was like, I don't know why that was the name of him, but he was when he was mad at his cousin or his brother, whoever the younger guy was. He was like, you kidnapped these two girls, and they're this guy's daughter. Like, he's basically like Black Jesus to this city, and I thought that was kind of funny. But throughout the whole episode, it's how he's helped people, help children kind of get through the system and kind of make something of themselves. And I thought that was kind of a cool dynamic for his character, where he spent so much time doing that, but he had to go back to being Black Lightning because his daughters were in danger. And it was like, well, I got to get some stuff done because I know the cops can't really handle this in time. So I got to go in, I got to get my daughters. And that was a sweet sequence at the end of the episode. Both sequences where he kind of like went crazy with his powers were pretty cool. But the ending, of course, was like, that big action set piece with him in the costume. He's spinning around punching people. Every time he punched somebody or kicked somebody, it was like a little concussive blast and stuff. And it was just pretty sweet. I was like, this is pretty awesome. Like, he's going through. We actually get to see him with the last guy that actually had his daughters. That was really cool when he like freezes them in place. Because at first I was like, it looks like he's about to die, because he looked like he was like actually getting electrocuted. Which death apparently is nothing in this show. He did like the full on human shield thing where he was beating up a dude, and then another guy came around and he was like, okay, well, I'll just do this. They did the thing where the person is just like shooting and not paying attention. I was like, he's just shooting his buddy up right now. But they kept showing it. I was like, yeah, well, okay, well, he's it's gangs, that's what happens. And he was just shooting his buddy up, and it's just like, oh, and it's like, all right, well, he's done. And he actually throws him into the guy shooting at him. So they go through the whole thing, and when he did that, I thought he was like killing them, and it was like, oh, he's just like, he paralyzed him, and he was holding him over his car. But I was like, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty sweet power. He like freezes his whole body, and he dangles him off the second story. So I was like, that was actually pretty awesome. And he beats him, and everything's good, and he's standing on the rooftop as if no one could see him. That was one of the other things that was funny, because he had the classic superhero move where like all of his face is just like totally out, except for like his eyes, because he had the goggles, and it was like, oh, my goggles, I should turn them black. And then it's like, okay, they're going the Superman route with it, whereas like the rest of his face is totally exposed. It's like, like I know there's a saying where it's like, the windows of the eyes are the windows to the soul, but it's like, it's not like literal. It's not like I can't tell who you are just because I can't see this. So I thought it was super funny, but it's like, all right, they're going this Superman, Supergirl route. If you currently watch Supergirl, it's exact same thing. So it was just super funny. I was like, okay, well, there it is. They did change his voice though, which I thought was funny because I was really expecting them to say something. I'm like, I mean, they're already doing the goggles. I'm like, that's not gonna do anything. But what about his voice? And then he changed his voice too. So it's kind of like blending like the super funny element of how does nobody know who Kara and Clark are as Supergirl and Superman, but then they kind of mix it with the Flash where he actually vibrates his voice so that people can't tell what he actually sounds like. So, and I don't know if that's what he was doing or if that was a part of the suit, but either way they had his voice changed. So I was like, okay, well at least that's in there, because I'm like, my dad looks exactly the same, just cover this up. And it's like, all right, I mean, it still doesn't make sense, you can still see him, but you know what I mean. It was like classic superhero element, where it's just like, all right, somehow they just have no idea who this is because he covered up this and he changed his voice a little bit. But really awesome ending sequence. The first action sequence was pretty cool, where he goes in without the suit and he's activating his power, shuts the lights off, knocking people around, flipping them. And then it got to probably one of my favorite parts of the whole episode, which is him getting hassled by the cops the second time. Because the first time it was like, that was like the start of the episode too. Like he has to go get his daughter because she was at this protest rally, and then the gang members showed up to protest, and it was just absolute chaos. And so they're driving away, and then the cops pull them over, and it was like, okay, they're kicking it off, like, this guy's dealing with, random black issues of being pulled over by the cops, and it was just like, okay, take, need him to step out of the car, like, instantaneously, and they put him in handcuffs and everything, because, this just is what it is. And so it's like, they do all this crap, and it's a big hassle. And it's like, is this the guy? And the woman just looks up like, It's like, all right, well, be gone with you. Have a nice day. And it's just like, cool, thanks. Like, just being dicks. So he already dealt with that in the beginning of the episode. Then they get to the second part, which once again, hilarious, because he's like the black dude coming out. And at first I thought it was just insane. Like he was the only guy that got stopped. But then I realized he was actually bleeding. So I was like, okay, there's at least something there. But at the same time, it's like everybody's running out of this place. And, of course he gets stopped. And he's like the main character, everybody else is taking off. And so they do it, and they're like, get on the ground. And I always make this joke because I'm stupid, and I'm always watching TV. If a black person, if it's not a real, dangerous situation, for me, I always make the stupid joke where the cop's like, get your black ass on the ground. And so they're saying like, get on the ground, and then they do it in slow motion where the guy says like, get your black ass on the ground. And it made me laugh so hard because I was like, I always say that as a joke, and you don't expect them to actually do that in a TV, especially because it's, even with it being a black superhero, it's still like a superhero show. And I thought it was really cool. It was cool, but it just made me laugh because it caught me off guard, because I make that joke all the time where I'm like, get your black ass on the ground. I always make that stupid joke because I always think it's really funny. That's just me though. But then he actually said it, and I just started cracking up. I was like, I can't believe they actually put that line in there, where it was like, there's some stuff where I'm like, I feel like if this was on Netflix, like Luke Cage was, for anyone who saw Luke Cage, they say some stuff in there, and I was like, I feel like, especially they had the scene at the end when the main villain Tobias came up, especially considering he shot a harpoon into a guy. There's some elements in there where, like, the way he was talking, I was like, if this was like HBO or Netflix, or I don't know, maybe AMC would do it too, because they let The Walking Dead drop some F-bombs. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that just would have been like, pause, nigga. Like, I feel like that would have been in there somewhere. Like, they would have, there's definitely some lines where they're like, we can't say nigga on the CW, so I gotta just cuss that out right there. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a couple of moments where I was like, that would have been in there if this was like a more, like a cable channel. They would have had that in there. But I thought that was so funny. There's just a lot of parts where I was like, yep, they wanted to just put a little comma right there, and then they couldn't do it because it's the CW. But it was really funny. And it was just really fun, honestly, watching it, because I was like, I didn't know how it was going to be as far as this show, like, obviously black superhero stuff like that, but that doesn't mean they have to touch on elements and stuff like that. But I'm glad that they did. I thought it was cool, and I guess I shouldn't have been that surprised, because it's not like we have that many black shows in general to really touch on it. If there is, it's typically how it is. But yeah, I was like, okay, I like that it's doing it that way, but it's not solely focused on that. It's definitely a part of it. It is within the black community, and this is a guy who dealt with it as both a superhero as well as, currently being like a principal and trying to help these kids. And they even have the line in there where he says like, I help more kids now than I ever would have as Black Lightning. Like he's helping, change the future with raising these kids in a sense. So I was like, that's definitely cool. And I like that dynamic of it and him now being thrown back into it, especially considering the fact that the main villain literally killed his father, which really surprised me because when they mentioned that, I was like, okay, so this character, Tobias, killed his father. He says he like literally killed my dad by shoving the articles he wrote down his throat till he died. And I was like, okay, I figured he killed the guy. I like when he said like, I retired after that, and I was like, oh, so he beat him and he's dead now. But there would be some connection to that old villain that he had, like some illegitimate kid or just like naturally his actual kid grew up and is like, I want to get revenge for my villain, the father, so I'm going to kill Black Lightning if he comes back. It was like, nope, he's actually still alive. So I guess we're gonna get an episode, maybe like way down the line, where we get that backstory. Where it's that episode that they probably that they did the flashback for in this one, where he was in the bathtub and it was like that moment where his wife was like, "I'm leaving you and like you need to stop this," or it was the moment after he made that promise and she found him again the last time. So that was probably it, and that was probably after his father was murdered, and that was the last time he did it. But he never actually killed Tobias. But very interesting episode. I like the villain. Very weird when they introduced Tobias. Like first, he was feeding a dude to piranhas, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's like a crazy thing. But it's like, sure, a dude has a piranha tank. That's kind of a villain thing. It was kind of Austin Powers, Dr. Evil type stuff, like sharks with freaking laser beams. I was like, okay, piranha tank, and drop a dude in there, he gets eaten up. Okay, that's a little over the top, but it happens. And then he's mad. He has his people, roll up on the guy, brings him in. It's like, okay. So what he pulled out with the harpoon gun, I was like, oh man, he's about to kill this dude. Like, this is going to be a crazy scene. I thought he was just like, boom, and he was just going to blast this guy and he was dead. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy way to take out a guy I thought was going to be more important. No, he shot him with a harpoon gun, which no one, like, that was crazy. Like, piranhas in a tank was like weird. That was insane. Like, it's not Moby Dick. Like, he shot a dude with a harpoon gun. That's insane. It was a cool scene, though, because he shot a guy with a harpoon gun, and then he's, like, literally reeling him in slowly. I was like, that's actually, as insane as it is, it was kind of badass. I was like, that's actually a really cool sequence. But that's a crazy villain, to just a dude who has a harpoon gun and a piranha tank. Like, I don't know what his deal is, if he used to be an actual pirate, but that's nuts. So I like how that scene played out, and I just thought it was really crazy. But I'm looking forward to getting to know more about the villains, because I don't know much about Black Lightning really as a character at all. Outside of like minor stuff I've seen from back when Cartoon Network used to do like the DC hour block of animated shows when they still had Young Justice and everything. They would have little animated shorts. That's how I knew about Vibe before like Flash came out and stuff. I was like, oh, I know who Vibe is. I didn't know that that's who Cisco was when the show came on, because they just called him Vibe. And plus it was like the actual old school version with the super cheesy costume. But it was like, okay, I saw some stuff on Vibe. I learned a little bit about Plastic Man and Animal Man. And that's a little bit how I learned about Black Lightning. And I knew that he had two daughters. And for anyone who may have seen my trailer reaction, they show it in the trailer that, which they do at the end of this episode as well, his oldest daughter has like super strength. And I was like, okay, I definitely knew that. And I believe both of his daughters have powers. I could be wrong about that. I know for sure that the one daughter, who they show at the end does. And I'm excited for how that's going to play out. I'm super curious how that's going to build up in the series, because of course, once you introduce that, it's like, all right, well now we have obviously Black Lightning coming back. His daughter has powers. At some point that has to connect, where she reveals to them that she has powers, and he's like, okay, well, it's not the same power as me, but this is how I control my powers. Also, surprise, I have powers on Black Lightning. So that has to come up. That probably won't be for like maybe half the season. It'll be a total secret, and then it'll just get revealed somehow by accident, and it'll kind of go from there. But I feel like that's how it'll play out. So for a while, she'll be keeping it a secret. She might tell her sister, but not her dad. Might keep it a secret from everybody, and then he'll just be doing his thing, his Black Lightning, getting the costumes, getting the upgrades from like his old family friend and stuff, which really surprised me. I didn't realize this. I know who that actor is. He plays, every time I see him, I'm like, oh, that's Ajax, because that actor played the character Ajax in The Warriors. He was also in like the second season of that old show Jericho. He was like the villain of the second season. Those are like the two things I know him from. It was like, it's that he was Ajax from The Warriors. Every time I see him, I'm like, that's Ajax. So that really caught me off guard, because he was actually a good guy in this show. He was also in what the heck was that? He was in an MTV show. It was like the Shannara Chronicles. It's like a fantasy, post-apocalyptic fantasy show. He was in that as well. Also kind of a villain. He's always like a bad guy. But it was funny. I was like, oh, he's like the older good character. It was super weird seeing that. But he's like this crazy tech genius where, he has like a little shop for fabrics and making clothes and everything, and then they go to like the crazy secret layer. He's like, yeah, I've been building something new, and he flips over this screen and stuff, and it's all like it's insane technology. I was like, oh, who is this guy? Like, I'm assuming he's from the comics, but I'm excited to learn a little bit about him as well. So looking forward to where the show is definitely headed. I really enjoyed this first episode. I thought the characters were really cool. We get to learn a lot about pretty much the entire history of the character of Black Lightning, where we see, not just the reference to the old costume, but we see him as this guy who suffered, like, we see more of his losses than we do his victories, because we had the one tape of him beating up the bad guys, but most of the clips of like flashbacks of him when he was Black Lightning is him in the shower or him in the bathtub, because he's bleeding like crazy and his wife is freaking out. So we saw more of his losses than we did his wins as an actual hero, and I like that dynamic. And of course that's why they split up, and he talks about how he doesn't want to be Black Lightning because he wants to get back with his wife, but she understands why he goes back, because it's their daughters in the end. So, that idea is still there, but of course he's going to go out and full on be a hero. So I like the way they kind of played the dynamic, and they kind of put a lot of stories in. It's like, all right, this is very simple. This is how this family works. This is why it doesn't work. This is how it might work again, but maybe not, because he's going back to being a hero. So there's all these elements, and of course his friend, of course, not knowing he's Black Lightning, but being the cop and all this other stuff. So I was like, all right, lots of stories kind of thrown in, but they all fit, and it was just like, here's some little snippets. And then, of course, the big tease at the end with his daughter, unlocking her powers as well. So great first episode, definitely looking forward to it. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. I'm not even going to ask you guys to put this, because I know everyone who is watching this is going to be like, we're Static Shock, we're not going to get that for like maybe 3 or 4 seasons. I would love it, everyone would, but we're not going to Static Shock soon. That would be insane. They're not going to do that soon, so I just want to say that now. But I do want to know what you guys want to see from this series, whether it's crossover stuff, if they do end up introducing it into the rest of the TV universe, which of course they will at some point if the show gets more than 1 season, which I really hope it does. Tell people to watch it. But I would love to know what you guys want to see from this show. If you don't know Black Lightning, which I think a lot of people don't, I want to know what you guys want to see, what you guys are hoping to see. And of course, like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.